Why is it not going live?
It is live now.
Yep.
Hello all, welcome again. I ain't got a clue if I'm freezing. I don't know. But we have got Ashly. Hi.
Hi.
Am I freezing or is it just,
No.
I don't know.
Well,
No?
I mean,
I'm all right.
it's
All right,
kind of glitchy, but
I don't know. Okay. How's your week been, Richard?
I'm having an amazing week. I'm building a new podcast studio, working out every day, enjoying life. So life is good.
Brilliant. And obviously we've got journalist for boxing, Ben Doughty. How are you?
Nice to be here, Adam. Good to meet the other guys too.
Absolutely. Yeah, and again, I think Nick's going to show up at some point. I ain't got a clue. But yeah, please do share this, everybody, and subscribe if you haven't already. Because I think the last time I checked the analytics, I think the views were over 30,000. I think they were. I don't know. But anyway, good topic today. Creating a positive relationship with food. Now, I think we should start with Ben. Just give a little introduction of who you are and what you do for the world.
Sure. I'm a boxing trainer, a journalist and a writer, boxing pundit. I started boxing myself at the age of 10, way back in 1980. I had 30 amateur fights. And then from then, after a very long break in the 1990s, where I went on quite a different path altogether, not necessarily the most positive one, I've trained amateurs and pros and white collar, ordinary men and women of all ages. I work in schools, teaching boxing during the holiday periods at secondary schools and primary schools. So certainly, I believe with this being a nutrition focused podcast today, from the point of view of boxing, I mean, I've dieted and made weight as a boxer. I've helped fighters do that when they've been under my sort of tutelage, and I do know in the realm of boxing there was a lot of dark ages practices and a lot of ignorance, and some of it seems quite funny and almost nostalgic. But I know certainly in recent years, fighters and trainers have got very different views on what we should be putting into our mouths for athletic performance and longevity and health and all of that. So that's my kind of context for this debate.
Brilliant. Anything, guys?
No, I think this is a perfect subject, and I think this will hit on a lot of different areas. I've been in health and fitness industry for over 32 years. Worked with guys like Lennox Lewis, The Undertaker, Triple H, guys from the WWE, and they all take care of their bodies. And I think we all need to start taking care of our bodies also. So I think this is a perfect discussion between us.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think we should kick off with not because obviously I know there's big debates about what we eat from processed to organic and all of that.
Yeah.
But it's all about what's good for us and why is that temptation there to basically dive into food. Like for example, with me, when I put alcohol down, which is one addiction, you automatically turn to something else. So mine was actually food.
Yeah, well, I think automatically there is this desire to satisfy the senses, right? As human beings, we have various ways which are probably pretty easy go-tos that don't require a lot of thought, a lot of commitment, or a lot of work, or a lot of talent, whereby we want to feel good, and one of the easiest ways supposedly to do that is to stimulate the senses, and that, and that's why junk food, pizza, burgers, chips, fry-ups, Chinese takeaways, cookies, chocolate, sweets, pick and mix. It's an easy way to satisfy the senses, isn't it? And it's been linked with people who've had mental health issues sometimes, that they make themselves feel better with food. But then often, unfortunately, that leads to a kind of self-loathing and a really sort of dichotomous dynamic where there's the desire to satisfy the senses mixed with this guilt and regret over the fact that you putting bad things into your body that might be changing your appearance in a way you don't like. But I mean, the people agree with me that the temptation is born out of an easy way to get pleasure, straight through the mouth to the brain, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of us, I think, we use food to cover feelings.
Yeah.
So, and like I tell my clients that I teach and that I instruct, that a lot of times it's not what you're eating, it's what's eating you. So I think a lot of us cover our feelings with food, because food never talks back. Food never argues with you. Food just wants to be eaten. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything, Ashly?
No, I agree. Like, it's an emotion that we typically will tie to food. It isn't just, okay, well, I put this addiction down, now I'm going to pick this one back up. We eat because food is enjoyable, but we also eat away stress and anxiety and our feelings. We eat more junk food. Our bodies crave sugar. And obviously, the manufacturers of food know that sugar is addictive. So why not put it in everything? And obviously, here in the United States, our standards of ingredients are completely different than what you guys have in the UK. Yeah. So we are trying to now backpedal and get a lot of the dyes out of food and a lot of those toxic preservatives, but it's not something that happens overnight. It's a process. And you've got big pharma, you've got the FDA, the EPA. I mean, you've got so many regulations, and I'm not saying you guys don't have regulations over there, but you follow the money, you find out why.
Yeah.
Just plain and simple.
Yeah, the ingredient. Yeah, there you go. Even Robert Brooker from Canada put there are ingredient differences between the US and Canada too. So there you go. There you go. But it is bad when it comes to food over here, isn't it, Ben?
What is?
Like for example, I'm talking history now. The town I live in, it was full of supermarkets. It was clothes shops, a few takeaways, few pubs. But now, all of that has gone. There's a few charity shops, but it's mainly just pubs and takeaways and betting shops.
It's it's funny, because I remember that there was a popular meme that would go around on social media in recent years, and it showed some British people on a beach in like 1970 or thereabouts, and then it showed the same beach type scene of British holidaymakers today, and it was making the point that in the 1970s shot there were no obese or visibly overweight people at all. They all looked pretty organically healthy, in shape men and women to a great degree. And then they showed the much more examples in the other shots of people who were either obese or visibly overweight. And it said because there were no takeaways, the takeaway explosion and the boom in that industry had not hit the UK by 1970, and a lot of people were eating relatively wholesome food at home, making their meat and two veg, and it may not have been massively enlightened, and nutritionists might have still found fault with it, but you know what I mean. They were. It wasn't Pizza Hut and McDonald's and Chinese takeaways and curries and all the rest of it. So I think that it is, when you look at the urban scape these days and you think, do we really need all these damn chicken shops, which seems to be the king of fast, cheap takeaway food? So you do wonder, should there be more responsibility on a society to provide us with options where we're able to eat healthier, more natural food that we could grab on
Yeah.
the go, instead of everything being that's marketed as just being absolute junk, you know?
Yeah,
So
well,
do
I
you,
do keep
do you
seeing a picture that's circling social media have how the fact that it should be less takeaways such as like McDonald's and pizza and all that, and more places where you can actually go to them and pick fruit, pick vegetables and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
natural delis, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I believe in that. That should happen. Yeah. What was you saying,
so
Richard?
I was going to say, is it a coincidence that, say, in the top 10% of money, people that have money in the UK and the United States, that in their neighborhoods, there's not a lot of takeout food? But if you look at the bottom 10%, it's mostly
Yeah,
all takeout food.
absolutely, yeah. So there's a kind of like nutrition impoverishment going on, you know, and a nutrition poverty kind of dynamic in those areas, yeah.
Yeah. So, question for you, Ben. Has your relationship with food always been positive?
Probably not entirely. No, I mean, I've never identified as someone who's had an eating disorder, but I think my desire to any kind of healthy eating regime that I would have felt obliged to follow would have been based on boxing in my youth, and then when I was a little bit older. So, you know, you would cut certain things out, but I never ever. I know some people whose diet is so clean that they claim that they no longer they actually find the thought of junk food revolting now because they've reprogrammed their brain and body, you know, in tune with each other, and to the point where they don't like the idea of grease and you know that kind of rubbish. I've never gotten to that. No matter how healthy and clean I've ever eaten for a regime to make weight, to lose weight, to get ready for a fight, I've never ever lost the good smell of chips and burgers and you know, or a classic English fry up. So, I mean, I've been capable of. To be honest with you, I've never eaten too addictively in a way that I would regard as a dangerous negative behavior, because I was too busy launching into drink and drugs as negative behaviors back in the day. I mean, as you might know, I've been sober for the past 8 years, but I think people say it's not alcohol. It's not alcohol. It's the ism. So people, like you said, when people put down the booze or whatever else it might be, their addiction can still surface like whack-a-mole in other ways, like, and it becomes food. For me, that hasn't really happened. But what I wonder, and I'd be interested in the views of my co-panelists on this, is quite how healthily we should eat, or is the 80-20 thing okay? Because, well, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't drink. I haven't drank for 8 years. I don't do drugs. I don't smoke. But I love cookies, you know. I don't, once again, I'll keep an eye on how many I consume, but to me, coffee and cookies and candy, as you North Americans call it, I still like that stuff, and I still like chips and fries. I try to eat healthily, but can we get away with a 20% rubbish, or is that actually quite harmful to the body all the same, and should we try to be as clean as possible all of the time?
I think in the world that we live in, to me, coming from like the woman perspective, like, yes, it's good to eat clean. It's also good to know what foods are truly fueling your body and which
Yeah.
foods are dangerous for your body, right? So
Yeah.
you could love carrots, eat carrots. For me, carrots could be causing inflammation and chronic dis-ease within my body, right?
Yes, yes.
It's knowing what your body can tolerate and what it can't tolerate. That, I think, is important. But at the end of the day as well, like, I like the 80-20 rule because
Yeah.
I've done the extremes where I have done absolutely no sugar. That means no fruit, no processed foods, no root vegetables, no potatoes, all the things. Yes, did I lose 20 pounds of inflammation or weight or whatever I was carrying? Absolutely, I did. But then the other day I was looking back at photos of myself and I said to my husband, I'm like, I look anorexic. I look sick. And then I worked with a nutritionist for like a parasite detox and certain things like that. And she had said to me, she's like, if your body is craving a potato, it's telling you you need the potassium. Eat the damn potato.
Yeah.
Well, I started paying attention to what my body is doing with food. If I eat pizza, I'm going to be bloated because gluten here in the States is not the same as flours and whatever in the UK and over in Europe, right? So it's so incredibly processed. So I'm going to feel bloated. I'm not going to feel great. So I make sure that, okay, if I'm going to have pizza, I understand this. I accept the consequences of this. But at the same time, it's okay, let's portion control it, right? I think in America, it's how much shit can we pile onto our plate and just keep eating and eating and eating until you end up 500 pounds, right?
Yeah. Well, when we visit the America as Brits, one thing that we're always blown away by, particularly for Brits who are not familiar with the States so much, it's the portions, the size of the sandwiches, the size of the burgers. Heart Attack Grill, Las Vegas, and obviously we think it's brilliant because we're like, oh, this is more like it. You know what I mean? This is how you eat. Because if you're on holiday, I guess that's okay. But if that is your default culture, it's a little bit more concerning, probably.
Yeah, well, and everything here is deep fried. Like, we deep fry everything that we can possibly imagine. Like, we deep fry ice cream, for Pete's sake. Like, deep fried Oreos, we deep fry everything. Richard, you know this. Like, everything is freaking deep fried here. But when you can find a high quality restaurant that has high quality ingredients and they're using organic or locally, sourced stuff, and you know where their things are coming from, that makes a big difference compared to going to McDonald's, or over here we have Culver's and Burger King and Hardee's and, all of that stuff, right? So it's a picking and choosing. Okay, we're going to eat out today, but where can we eat that maybe is a little more healthy versus let's get the big fat deep fried, not really human consumption food, right?
Is Turkish food a good option? When there was a trainer at my old boxing club back in the day who used to write a simple diet out for the lads to follow when they were getting ready to box and make weight. And he said there's nothing wrong with a chicken shish kebab, the grilled chicken. He said the one you have to wait for, it said in brackets, in case anybody was stupid enough to think he was talking about what they call a Madonna, which is just the really fatty meat. So he said, get the kebab you have to wait for, it's just chicken and salad. There's a bit of pita bread on the side, of course. That's optional. You could maybe have it or not have it. What do my co-panelists think of the chicken shish as a good, healthy option for athletes or just ordinary people?
Well, I used to work with guys that were and the girls that were getting ready for the Mr. Olympia contest.
Yeah.
And they would consume an ass ton of chicken. I mean, that was that and tilapia. But that was their main food for their training camp. But, but when they got their blood work done, their blood work was immaculate because they were eating the chickens without the hormones. They were eating the farm raised chickens and stuff like that. So I think eating like that is good for your body, but it's also good for your blood system because you're not eating all the carbs. So you have a less chance of high blood sugar, high diabetes, high cholesterol. So I think chicken is good. And if you can find a good kebab, tell me where it's at. I want it.
Well, I mean, I guess they must vary, but there are kebab shops and takeaways lots of them on every British high street, and they all offer the lamb and the chicken shish option, which is something which is, as I say, grilled on the grill in the restaurant while you're there, and then they'll throw salad on it and then give you the bread on the side or whatever, or put it in the bread. But I suppose what you're implicitly warning of is that they may vary in standards and actual quality of that meat product, right?
Yeah. And I know I feel better when I'm eating a lower carbs. Like when my carbs are a little bit lower, I know I feel better. I have a little bit more energy. And like she said, once I start eating the higher carbs, I start getting tired. I start getting bloated. But we're so used to instead of having just protein and vegetables, now the potatoes are taking over where the protein was. And chicken nuggets, guys, that's not protein. Chicken nuggets
No.
are not protein. So don't let your kids lie to you and say they're getting their protein.
Do you know, you talk about potatoes. I've got a friend who's a bit of a buff in all of these things, and he likes to experiment and try to test theories himself. And he dropped a whole bunch of weight. I believe it was 7 kilos in a week, which would be, if I need to put that in American, then that would be about 15 pounds in a week. And he said he did it just by eating nothing but potatoes. He obviously wasn't proposing this as any kind of ongoing sustainable diet, but to crash, he decided potatoes were the best, most versatile of superfoods. And he also said that as long as you don't, add butter or, only seasoning he was allowed was salt and pepper or the occasional drizzle of barbecue sauce, but that was rare. But he said whether they were mashed or boiled or jacketed, he said you never overeat, because when you're eating like that, it's pretty bland and dull, and you never think, oh God, I could really go for a potato right now, because you're sick of them. So that was his proposal for a crash diet. I don't know. Once again, I don't know what you guys think about that, but
yeah, I'm very much like meat and potatoes. Like, I could honestly care less about fruit. My kids, on the other hand, they love fruit, but I also have the kids that if I buy a head of broccoli, they will literally take it and they will just eat it.
Yeah.
So it's how they have been raised, right? So, I mean, don't get me wrong. Do we have the occasional pizza night, or maybe more than we should lately? But, like pizza, or we go out to eat. Sure, we do. But at the end of the day, it's okay. You need protein. Like, you need to be eating something with protein. I don't care if you're eating a spoonful of peanut butter right now, but you cannot just eat a piece of bread. Like, you need to have some protein with your food. And it's finding that balance for kids, but it's also, in my mind, I don't want to be restrictive of, no, you can't eat that. No, you can't eat that. No, don't eat that. Because then it's going to make them want it more. So now I've adapted this. Okay, well, if you eat that, be prepared for your tummy to not feel so great, right? So if you're going to eat, and letting them gauge how it makes their body feel, because what upsets my body might not upset theirs, right? So it's letting them figure out their food, but also in, again, a portion control manner. Okay, if I buy ice cream at the grocery store and it's here, that doesn't mean we need to eat the tub of ice cream between the 6 of you all in one day. Small scoops, people. We don't need a heaping bowl of ice cream. So it's teaching them portion, while also, okay, have some vegetables, eat some fruit, have some protein, and keeping a balance of it all, right? So I think that's the biggest thing that we have to understand is it's being in portion. It's being in some sort of balance. What works for me might not work for you. Maybe you need, 150 grams of protein a day and I need 100, right? Yeah. So you've got to figure out what works for your body. And that's the biggest thing too. Food can fuel you, or food can make you feel absolutely crummy. I don't like feeling crummy after I eat food where I want to vomit and then it just doesn't feel right. So it's figuring that out for each individual unique body.
Yeah. Understood.
And I also think there's tricks to the trade. Like when I used to get ready for bodybuilding shows, if I was going to go out, come over to your house for dinner, right before I went in your house, I'd slam a protein drink just so I know my blood sugar would be stable and it wouldn't be spiking. So even if I waited a half hour until I had some carbs, I know that my blood sugar will be kind of stable and I'm not going to want to snack as much. So there's a lot of things you can do, like eat your protein before your carbs. There's a lot of things you can do. Just nobody talks about it. Nobody tells you that to do these things.
Yeah. I'm interested in protein shakes as well, and also the idea of making them yourself organically by trying to replicate those ingredients. Sometimes I've made something which it's like a blended banana, a bit of Greek yogurt, maybe like a tablespoonful of same thing of peanut butter, and coconut milk, for instance.
Mm.
Is that a good effort? Or sometimes egg whites maybe as well, or even just a whole egg. Am I getting warm there, or is that just really
No.
missing the requirements?
Can you make me one?
Yeah, sure. I got the thing right around the corner. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
that sounds
like just
really
one of
good.
the meals I make.
good.
One of the
Yeah.
meals I make in the mornings is because obviously I know there's mix and match views when it comes to bread. Like some breads
Yeah.
are healthy, some aren't. I get all of that, but what I make is 2 boiled eggs. Obviously fresh from the farm, which is brilliant. It's not supermarket with tiger loaf. I do that, and that lasts me a few hours in the day. Or if not, I have a cereal, but instead of having milk with it, I have either strawberry yogurt or Greek yogurt.
Yeah.
So I've actually replaced that.
Yeah, and the thing with bread as well, I get confused. One of the most confusing things about
Yeah.
nutrition is the constant reinvention of arguments and the back and forth when people will tell you one thing is good, and then suddenly you give it a little while, and then you'll read an argument that seems quite compelling and scientific as to why it's bad or why the thinking has suddenly shifted on that. But there's a guy called Stephen Gundry. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's very much big into gut health, right? But he preaches against the evils of brown bread and wholemeal bread, and says that husk is no good, and you're better off with white bread. So sometimes I have trouble deciding which bread one should be eating, if one should be eating bread at all. You know?
Well, I think for me as a diabetic, it's just a matter of science. Where I know that if I have a slice of bread, if I check my blood sugar within 30 to 45 minutes, it's going to spike. Where if I have a grain kind of bread, it's not going to spike as much. So for me, it's just a matter of science.
Yeah. So you would favor the brown or wholemeal?
Yeah, I mean, but who doesn't like a nice piece of bread once in a while? So
Sure.
I guess it like, I think it's all in moderation. I think, if you're gonna, because I know the people that are vegetarians and they look like crap and they feel like crap, but they'll go around talking all day long how they're a vegetarian. You know? Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I've seen that argument before. Someone says, check out your Holland and Barrett health store, and a lot of the people in there don't look too well, sometimes. Whereas you might go to a place which is more of the local McDonald's and see people who actually look kind of all right, sometimes on a good day.
Yeah. So what's your views on bread, Ashley?
Coming from somebody that really loves bread, I've started making a lot of switches as much as I can to sourdough, just because of the components of it and the healthy bacteria that are in sourdough. I order my sourdough from an Amish bakery that's in a different state, but I have a lot of friends that bake their own sourdough. I ain't got time for that. So all of you that do sourdough, kudos to you. I don't do it. But I've tried to make as many switches to sourdough stuff as I possibly can. We do occasionally will have white bread here in the house. If we go out to a restaurant and a piece of bread, or again, if sourdough is an option, I will ask for sourdough. There is a particular bistro that my husband and I love to go to, and they do like a bread option. So it's usually like a local bakery dinner roll of whatever sorts, right? So again, you have to know how your body processes bread. If you have a gluten or you're celiac or something along those lines, obviously bread could potentially harm you very severely, right? So again, I do have a gluten sensitivity, so I have to be careful how often I'm really eating and consuming bread. But don't get me wrong, there will be times that I'm like, okay, Ashley, you're going to be bloated, you're going to feel miserable, but eat the bread because you love the bread and the bread is delicious, right?
Yeah.
So I am very much a bread lover. I've done my best to really back off as much as I possibly can for my consumption of bread. Again, it's carbs. It's very heavily processed. The body doesn't really know what to do with it. So it's not something that's nutritional for you, but it's bread.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my
Yeah.
2 cents on bread.
Yeah. So would you advise having bread before a workout?
Well, considering I used to be around football players a lot and watching what they consume, they carb load the night before a game, like always. So if you're going to carb load because say you're going to do like a heavy workout of whatever that may be, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because it's giving you that short-term energy that you're looking for. But again, you've got to know how your body is going to react to it, because I know a lot of athletes will carb load a night before a big event or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it all depends on the workout and the goal of your workout. If your goal of your workout is to lose weight, you're probably not going to want to use the carbs because you want to, as you're working out with your weights, you're burning out the glycogen in your system. So when you go do your cardio, you're burning nothing but fat. So I think it all depends on your goals and what kind of workout you plan on doing. Because if you do take the bread right before, your insulin's going to spike and then it's going to drop like a rock. So you're probably going to crash if you do it that way. So it all depends on what your goals are.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
No. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Robert's put best workout fuel he's used was juicy celery, carrots, and apple and parsley. Make about a litre. Took 20 minutes to get to the gym. Gave him about half an hour of lifting, and then that's it.
That's not what like a juiced drink, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I did have a juicer, but and that I was doing a lot of juicing in the summer of last year until fruit flies had a bit of an idea with that one because they attracted it big time.
I've got a smoothie maker, just a small NutriBullet, and then one of my friends who's pretty well versed in nutrition told me that when you've got like berries, like blueberries or strawberries, you shouldn't juice those because you're multiplying the sugar content when you juice a berry. Is that my co-panelists think that is true?
I don't know.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
So I was advised by one friend who's quite well versed in nutrition not to juice berries, not to put blueberries in these smoothies that I'm making, which they're a great ingredient. But I was advised not to do it because she said that juicing the berry actually multiplies the sugar content.
Yeah, because that's why they tell diabetics not to drink juice.
Yeah,
because the sugars, it spikes the juice. That's why if a diabetic is actually starting to crash, that's why they give them orange juice to get it pushed back up again. So if you're using berries in your energy drink or your drink, then it's probably going to be high sugar. So if you're worried about
it says here. I've just put it in now. While it's possible you can juice berries, it's generally not the most beneficial way to consume them compared to eating them whole. Juicing removes most of the fiber, which is crucial for digestion and regulating blood sugar levels. This means the sugars in the juice are absorbed more quickly, potentially leading to a rapid spike in blood sugar.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But it all depends on the experience due to the fiber content.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. No, my wife threw my juicer out because when I was doing a lot of juicing, I was making about 3 a day. Fruit flies had a lot of ideas when it came to that.
Yeah.
They were in it instantly after I made it.
Yeah.
So it was just.
Well, you can buy.
Very annoying.
You can buy powder supplements at any of your local like GNCs or anything like that
Yeah.
that actually have all of your greens and your fruits and your vegetables in powder forms. All you have to do is add water.
Interesting. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good way of supplementing.
Yeah, I used to get protein powder off Amazon, but obviously Amazon can't always be trusted though, can it?
The quality, you mean?
Yeah, I used to pay, I think it was like 13 to 15 quid on and it was a big bag of just powder to make the protein shake.
Well, I think you'd have to be educated or know somebody that's educated. Like, I don't normally just drink a protein from anywhere. I'll mostly drink protein whey isolate because it's a little bit more of a pure isolate. Where a lot of times when you're buying a 10, 15-pound bag, it's just all whey. So you're really getting the cheapest form of protein. That's why you can get it so affordable, because you're getting the lowest part of the
Lowest
protein.
grade,
You know. So you really need to be up on it or know somebody like Ben that's up on this stuff that can give you the answers before you buy it.
What do you think in terms of mainstream brands that's available, perhaps on both sides of the Atlantic? What do you think is the best protein supplement?
Well, I mean, I'm privy to GNC brands. I love GNC brands. Optimum Nutrition's a good brand. You know, they've been around a while. There's a lot of different companies like Prolific Isolate. So there's a lot of different brands out there. But if I go to Costco's and they say I'm going to give you a 100-pound bag of protein for $12, I'm probably not going to get it.
Yeah, it's a false economy by the sound of it.
It's probably not going to be good. Just like if you find a $3 bottle of wine, I'm sure you're not going to want to buy it.
Same logic. I can imagine you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
There's I don't know what's happened to Adam, by the way, but I guess his screen looks like it's gone for now. But there's a lot of hype nowadays about the carnivore diet. I know some people who swear by it. They say it's even fixed some quite serious health conditions. Once again, I'd be interested in both of your views, Richard and Ashly, on the carnivore diet. Good idea or bad idea?
I had some curiosity on it as well. I know my daughter-in-law is switching to more of like that carnivore diet, and she's noticed some results as far as being able to lose weight that she's been carrying since she had our grandsons. And she's noticing a difference eating more protein as far as that is concerned. I haven't checked enough into it to say whether or not it's something that, you know, I'd be gung-ho to do, I guess. But I also know as a woman, I don't get enough protein. So I know for me, if I were to do something like that, I would definitely have to be meal prepping and be mindful of, okay, what am I consuming type of a thing. But I'm curious about it. I just haven't checked into it.
Same. I mean, I have one friend who was diagnosed with Parkinson's syndrome, who thinks he really credits it with turning his health around, you know, and fixing his whole body, you know, from quite a serious state of illness. But it looks like it's one hell of a commitment, because you see, much as I like the idea of having a plate full of bacon, sausages, steak, you know, this, that, and the other, and liver, and that looks okay. But when you can only drink like water or bone broth, you've got to be careful what you cook these things in. I think they believe cooking in butter. So they're really just into like meat, fish, eggs, cheese, butter, and that's kind of your lot, really, you know, which in some ways it sounds quite appealing, but it'd be difficult to sustain, I think.
Well, pretty much it's the old school bodybuilders diet from the 60s and 70s. You know, when Arnold Schwarzenegger, Franco, and Red Park were bodybuilding, all they ate was steak and eggs. So it's pretty much the same thing. But like you said, once you start eating carbs again into your body, it just throws your body off totally, because now you're adding carbs back into your body, and then the inflammation comes back twice as bad. So like I said, I think the 80-20 rule, I think, would be great. 80%, you know, protein, quality protein, and 20% carbs. I think that'd be a perfect mix while still being able to enjoy life.
Are vegetables very important, or so I've seen most people say they are, nutritionally, and but I've seen the occasional argument saying they're overrated.
Well, I mean, I would love to see their blood work because I know that especially a lot of your green vegetables, help a lot of antioxidants and stuff like that. So,
yeah,
I think that vegetables are very healthy, but it all depends. If you're slathering them with a bunch of butter, then it's probably not going to be as healthy as you thought it was going to be.
I think something we have to remember too is obviously our soil quality. Okay. This goes far beyond just eating meat, fruits, and vegetables, right? Because the way that our food was grown back in the, 40s, 50s, 60s, in the earlier days is not the same as how it's grown today. So that is also something that we have to keep in mind, because what you could have eaten to get all of your nutritional vitamins and minerals and all of that back then, you would have to almost quadruple your consumption today just to hit that daily volume limit or that daily recommended whatever value, which to me is also sometimes crap. But like, you would have to consume so much to be able to get that nutritional value. So this is where, again, it becomes important. How are you supplementing? Are you supplementing from like drugstore, CVS, Walgreens, Walmart type of supplements, or are you spending money, high quality supplements that you're putting into your body? Now, I'm not saying all supplements are good to have in like capsule form, because you have to be careful with them. And I am not a medical professional, but I'm just saying, like, because I have doctors and medical professionals that have poured this stuff into me, you have to pay attention to what it is that you're supplementing with, right? And it has to be high quality. Are your probiotics refrigerated? Is your vitamin D a high quality? And then that ties into, okay, if you're going to supplement with vitamin D, because most of us are vitamin D deficient, yes, you need a blood test to determine that. But again, when you go to a medical establishment and they'll say, oh, well, that's not covered by insurance, we don't run that panel regularly, you have to pay for that out of pocket. Well, lady, I live in Wisconsin. I'm most likely vitamin D deficient. Can we please just run the panel? Like, you shouldn't have to ask for that kind of stuff to be done in the medical realm, but you do. So if you know where your vitamin D levels are at, then you can supplement beyond that, especially if you are in a colder climate, you don't have a lot of sunshine all year round, and those types of things. Okay. So it really depends.
For England, then.
So then, then that ties you into, okay, everybody is like, put sunscreen on because you're going to get skin cancer. Put sunscreen on. Okay, but your body needs the sun to produce vitamin D, and your body needs vitamin D for your immune system. So it's this whole spiral effect, right?
Yeah.
So it's more than just food. It's more than just supplementing. So again, it's like one of those things of, yes, the 80-20 rule is great, where you're doing high quality protein, you're doing organic grass-fed meats, because so many are coming out of a lab now and being lab created. You have no idea what the hell is on your plate when you buy stuff from the grocery store. So you have to find a local farmer, find somebody you trust, how their cattle are raised, how the pigs are raised, all the things, right? So it's getting into the intentionality, but everybody just wants convenience. So if you just want convenience, then there you go.
And I think one of the biggest problems, like you just highlighted there, is that it's one thing consciously desiring to eat better, healthier, and a cleaner diet. But the conundrum then is to know how much you can trust what you are getting, when you attempt to shop on a consistent basis for a healthy diet. and you're at the mercy of the quality of what you're actually buying, like you just said, because sometimes you really don't know.
Yeah, you are.
Mhm.
And a lot of people will say, well, I won't buy organic this because in reality, it's not really regulated. It's not this, it's not that. So then you go by, okay, well, you've got the clean, 15 and the dirty dozen or whatever it is, right? And you can gauge stuff off of that. And I've also heard that, okay, you can buy an organic strawberry, but there's really no organic anything when it comes to a strawberry. And it's like, that's interesting. And strawberries happen to be on the dirty dozen because they're heavily pesticide sprayed and all of the things, right? And I've had somebody tell me once that if you can't do organic fruits and vegetables, then focus on grass-fed meats and high quality meat, because that is where all your artificial hormone comes from and all of the other stuff that's injected into the cattle and, the meat source. So high quality meat is a great focus. If you're like, well, I can't afford organic, $7 a pound strawberries and, $15 a pound for this, that, and the other thing. Okay, fine. Then put your focus on organic grass-fed meats versus the fruits and the vegetables.
Yeah.
So you got to pick and choose in today's world. You really have to navigate it, read labels, stay in the outer aisles of the grocery store versus going down the inner aisles. And I mean, there's still some stuff that you got to get in the inner aisles, right? Like whatever. Yeah. But focusing on your outside aisles is the thing when you go into a grocery store. And so many times all in the innards.
Well, that's me. That's me at the minute, because I refuse to pick up, like, when it comes to mints. I know mints can be good for you, depends what you make. I went into a supermarket, looked at the mint, and I physically threw up in my mouth, and I just couldn't do it. And as of then, I thought, you know what? I'm not having supermarket mints ever again in my life. So I either go to the farm or I go to the butcher's. But have you noticed between the supermarket mint and the fresh one, there's a spike in charging it?
Yeah.
There is. It's a massive.
Well, and you have to think too, like when you're going into a grocery store, how long has that meat been in a package? Or even fruits, vegetables, whatever. Wherever it's being transported from, it's not fresh. It's not, and then the other thing too is you have to think when you've got these big, massive mega farms that are like processing meats regularly, or cattle, I should say, in high quality or high quantity, not quality, they don't live in the best conditions, right? And that's a big thing that we have found and have seen. Not that it's bad, it's feeding people, but at the same time, they're just not humanely raised. Now, when you go to a local farmer or a butcher shop, and you really think of the time and the dedication, and if they're eating high quality food and all of the expense that comes with that, they're attempting to obviously offset the cost as the little guy to be able to provide a high quality meat. So it's going to cost you more, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going to go for cheap, well, then just think, okay, what did this thing actually eat? How was it taken care of? Like all the things, right? Yeah. So it's no different than if somebody honestly was to hire our construction company, and our price is here, and then you've got somebody that's down here. Well, they don't want to pay this high quality price, even though they're going to get a quality product and a quality service and all the things. They're just looking at, well, how fast can I get it done? How cheap can I get it done?
Yeah.
Well, you get what you pay for. So you have to think of that when you go to the grocery store and the market and all those things as well. The time, the sweat, the energy, the cost, all of those things are wrapped into that price of paying more, right? So you have to have a different perspective when it comes to, okay, if I was raising this, would I charge this dollar amount? Because I've got to feed it, I got to take care of it, I got to water, like all the electricity that comes into it, like all these things. When you think like a owner of an animal at that capacity, then it shifts your perspective of, okay, yeah, I have no problem paying that.
Yeah.
But then I think it also goes to difference between cost and price. There's a big difference between cost and price. It's kind of like if I wanted to hire Ben to be my trainer, of course he's going to be charging me a whole lot more because all the experience he's had and all the people that he's trained. Or I can pay some kid that just took $100 course that he's a trainer, and now what am I going to get? I'd rather pay the cost of Ben than pay the price of somebody that don't know what they're doing. Yeah, I think that's what you're talking about as far as the difference between cost and price. Big difference.
Yeah.
I think we should end the debate as well because a lot of people are against halal meat as well, halal foods.
Yeah.
I think the only difference between British meat and that kind of meat is how they treat the animal. Do you think? I don't know.
Well, I got a funny story to tell real quick.
Yeah.
Every time I used to go out to eat, they'd always ask me, "Do you want lamb?" And I'm like, "No, I don't eat lamb. I don't eat that crap." Until one day, I've been eating halal for the last 10 years. Until one day, I'm like, "Can I get the beef?" They're like, "We don't have beef here." I'm like, "Well, what have you been giving me?" She's like, "Lamb." So I've been eating lamb for the last 10 years and never knew I even ate lamb.
Okay. I like lamb, I must admit. It's the Sunday roast tradition in England where we have like a joint of meat with roast potatoes and vegetables and gravy and all the trimmings. My favourite choice, I like all of them, but of the standards, which is chicken, beef, pork or lamb is probably my favourite one, the one that I regard most of a treat. And I think possibly, I imagine it's not the best option of the four because of the fat content, but lamb is good, I think.
Yeah, obviously my wife's just put the only difference between halal and non-halal is how they kill the animal.
Yeah, from what I understand of the halal procedure, it's something that in Western Europe we regard it as cruel or inhumane, but but I don't know.
I don't know. But have we been eating halal meat all these years, and we've not known? I think
probably some of the time, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's convenient, isn't it? It's come back to that convenience. But anyway, yeah. So I think it's what we've all been saying is how to reprogram that mindset in getting away from the shit food and the shit drinks to get to the good stuff. But even having some fatty foods, that can be healthy, can't it?
Sometimes I'm aware as well of a recent nutritional movement in certain social media circles, as well as the carnivore diet. I see a lot of people speaking in favour of fat, saying you've been brainwashed to think fat is bad for all these years. Fat is okay. Fats don't make you fat. Sugars do. And fat, I know some people will talk up fats, good fats, essential fats, and all the rest of it. I know that.
Yeah. But it may not just be the sugar as well. It's something we may have missed is when it comes to, obviously Ashly was mentioning about deep fried stuff as well.
Yeah.
Would oil, like how it's cooked, play a factor?
I try to use olive oil, which I've been encouraged to believe is the better option if you're going to cook with oils. So I do use olive oil now.
Coconut
What I
oil,
use,
olive oil.
I've got coconut oil too, Ashley. Do you know what?
I've
That's
got
been
that.
put on the back burner lately. I went through a big phase of coconut oil, and I still have some in the cupboard.
I've got
But
some.
and
I've
I
got
don't know
some.
what happened, but organically, I don't mean organically in any other way than just naturally. I ended up switching to olive oil, and I'm not sure why. Maybe I think I got bored with cooking in coconut oil, but I still have some.
Yeah, you just
Yeah,
have to be
I've got it.
careful with olive oil because it doesn't have a high heat point and it will turn rancid if
Yeah.
it gets too hot. So that's why coconut oil is a better option if you're going to be like, say you're going to be frying eggs or something
Yeah.
like that. Olive oil is great for drizzle, but like avocado oil is another good one that you can
I was
use.
going to ask you about that too, yeah, because I think I'm going to try that one as well. But
Mhm.
I'm okay with olive oil, coconut oil, and avocado oil for different things, yeah.
You can also
Okay.
use like clarified butter as far as ghee. I know, Adam, I'm cutting you off, but you can also
Get
use
you
like fats are good. Your brain needs fat. You need healthy fats.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, my wife's in the comments, which is brilliant. Thanks for being here, Kerry. How do we get round the situation? Because I like lamb, she doesn't. I like cooking with farm butter, which is fresh, or coconut oil. She won't touch my cooking if I've done it in coconut oil.
Have you considered
What do I do?
divorce? No, joking.
So, okay, let me ask you this. What kind of coconut oil are you using? Does it have, like, they have unflavored coconut oil where you don't taste it. So
I was going to
if
say
your
that actually, because
yes, if your coconut oil has the flavor of coconut,
yeah,
she's going to taste it. And yes, Carrie, I know you're listening. So if you can find unflavored coconut oil that is already clarified, I think it's clarified,
yeah,
something where it's
Yeah,
already
clarified, yeah.
where it's already liquid form versus the solid form, then you won't even taste it. But
good shout.
yeah, you have to find that. Or again, you can use like clarified butter, like ghee. You can use that. You can use duck fat. Duck fat is another one that's good to use.
Yeah.
She's put rapeseed oil.
I'd have to do checking into that, but I think that's on the list of that's not.
I think so as well. Yeah, from what I know.
Kind of like a canola oil.
I don't think that's healthy.
That sounds dangerous. That sounds dangerous. Rapeseed oil.
The whole branding is wrong, isn't it? Automatically, it sounds negative and bad.
She just put the only coconut I like is in chocolate. It's horrible when used to cook with.
Yeah.
It depends.
See, I don't eat chocolate.
No. Sorry.
Well, Adam, if you want lamb one night, then you have lamb and you make your wife something different.
Different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go, Kara.
Take it outside and take it outside and grill it.
Yeah, you could grill
Exactly,
it.
yeah.
You can, if you've never done smoked lamb chops are good. That's the only way I'll eat lamb. Otherwise, I do not like lamb.
Thing is, when it comes to fish, the only fish I will get, like we've got a Morrison's in our next town. I go to there, but the only fish I'll get is when it's on ice. When I see it on the ice, I like the smoked salmon. That's what I get.
Yeah.
Obviously, I put my seasoning on it, and then I just light fry it.
Yeah.
Salmon is good.
Yeah, I get smoked salmon. Yeah, with a little bit of asparagus in there as well. So yeah. So yeah, right. Any final words before I probably get shouted at from Kerry?
I think it's been a very interesting conversation and one that I'd like to. I welcome the chance of talking to both Richard and Ashley again at some point at greater length or just at similar length another time about these things because I think there's plenty of more things I'd like to know. But for now, thanks guys, and I hope people enjoy it.
Yeah, Ben, you're welcome back anytime. Anytime
Sure.
you're welcome back.
Ben, it was a pleasure meeting you, my friend.
And yourself, Richard. I'll look to stay in touch.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, I'll connect you all. I will.
Yep.
I'll connect you all.
Nice one. Cheers, guys.
Absolutely. Right, well, so on that note, we will end it, and next week we're on twice. Next Thursday, Ashley, you're going to get ranting at this one. 8 p.m. UK, we're talking about the ability of being a role model to our kids when we struggle with mental health. Yeah, Ashley's going to rant there.
So what time is that? What time is that for us Yankees here next Thursday?
Oh, come on, Richard, you do this to me all the time.
3 p.m. on the East Coast. It would be
it's 2 p.m. Central. So
yeah, there you go. 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. East Coast. And if it was what's the Vegas time zone? Pacific?
Vegas.
Pacific Standard, yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
Why can't times just be the same for everybody?
It'd be midday in Vegas. I know that on the West Coast it'd be midday. Los Angeles.
Yeah, it'd be like noon Vegas time.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, Ashley, you've got company.
I know I do. That's because they want me to take them fishing.
Right. Yeah, well, we've just been talking about fish, so there you go. Right, so we'll see you next week, and
cheers, guys.
I'll be in touch, Ben. I'll connect you all. All right, see you later, all.
Thanks all. Cheers, bye.